Hey everyone, welcome back to another review. Today I am reviewing the Stabilo Woody 3-in-1 Arty. It's quite the name, huh? So these are going to be part of my water-soluble crayon battle and review. Now I know these are more like pencils, but for me, I use them more like a water-soluble crayon, if that makes any sense. And it's mainly because of their size. The, they look like a crayon too, but that's not the only reason. And just how I would use them. So these could be classified as a watercolor pencil, but like if you're using these in adult coloring, it would be really hard to get into those tiny spaces. So I'm going to put them in the crayons and kind of go from there. Now, when you order these right now, like on Amazon, it's pretty confusing to find some of them. There are a few different sets. You can actually get one in a Stabilo tin, or you can just get them in this case. It's a paper box, I should say. This is $3 cheaper than the ones in the tin. And the ones in the tin, from everything I can tell, comparing them both on Amazon and Blick and a few other art sites, they're actually the same pencil/crayon. Just, I think you're paying for them to look fancier and more, not less, like a kid's product. I don't know. So these do come with a sharpener, and they need to, because you'll see why in a minute. They include a brush, and then it even says, hey, you can use this on glass, like a glass palette, and then wipe it off. That's also why I'm kind of putting these in the watercolor crayon section, because they do have that more, you're more instinctively going to put it on a palette if you can. So it comes in this paper box. Open it up, and then inside you'll slide out your crayons. Ooh, boy, loud. Crayon / watercolor pencil / whatever you want it to be. So here is the monster sharpener, but as you can see from the size of these pencils, they're bigger than my finger. This is why you're gonna need this. It also comes with a little brush from Stabilo. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be anything fancy. I will be activating with the same brush that I've been using on most of these, which is my number 8 round Princeton Aqua Elite. All right, and let's grab one of these bad boys. Let's get one where you can see the numbers. Okay, first of all, look at the size of this thing. It's huge. Now, they are wood encased. That's why, it's hard to say, should I call it a crayon or not? Because all the other crayons we have looked at have been literally the whole thing is usable. Whereas this, you have wood. But I mean, look at the thickness of that lead. Now, there is no exposed lead at the bottom. It's just rounded out, which is kind of cool. And these can be used various ways. That's why they're called 3-in-1. But no matter what, they work best if they're activated with water. They do have a light fast testing because these are from Stabilo. You can actually buy these open stock. There is a set out there as well that has like 6, I think, or 8 pastel colors. I need to look and see if that's the ones that are already in this 18 count set, but honestly, I wouldn't buy them. I would just go with the set I have here. We're set. But yeah, so there's no names. There is a color code. So after the 880, which is the series or the product identification, you have the color number. And as you can see, they do use PEFC wood, which is actually a good thing. We got varying stars for our light fast. So if you're going to use these from the art side of things, well, you got to keep that in mind. But what we're going to do is, like all these, I'm going to swatch them out. I had swatched them before, but I'm going to re-swatch them for this video. And we'll also fill out some of this test sheet. Now, a few of these things I'll be leaving for the battle of those crayons. In fact, we're going to do this. And I can also include this in the watercolor pencil battle, but like I said, I honestly use these more like I would a watercolor crayon. So we'll definitely be filling out these ones here, and we'll do some testing on this watercolor paper, which is cold press, but not 100% cotton. And then like the other ones, we'll see how they dissolve on 100% cotton. This is my Etcher Cold Press sketchbook. So I've got my palette off to the side so that I remember to put them on the palette. That way we can test them. What I'm going to do is I'll probably do a dry swatch above, put some color here, drag it across, and then take some off the palette and put it here just to see what looks better. And I will speed that up as I have on the past ones, and then we will start working on the sheet in real time and go from there. Okay, we are swatched. Now, these dissolved about as well as I would expect on this rougher paper. Like, you know, comparing them to the others we have done. For example, like Crayola, as you can see, we have some lines there, and the lines stay here. This is a rough cold press watercolor paper, but the metallics, of course, dissolved exactly how every metallic water soluble product I ever try does, and that's, they don't do much. There's not much there to say. But from the palette, they're quite pretty in colors, and I'm not writing them off just yet because they're incredibly smooth and they do dissolve very quickly. I think it's just a combination of paper issues, but that's why we're going to use this right here. Okay, so let's pick a color for the dry. Now let's just, I'm calling this red, kind of a little pinkish. I would say these are smooth, but not like super smooth, but they're definitely not scratchy. So I'm marking these as an in-between. All right, we will activate this red here. And then let's do a different color for funsies. This one will activate and then draw on top of. Okay, now for the palette, let's use this purple over here. I get my brush wet for the tip. See if color comes off the tip of these. Some of them are a little chalky. or have a chalky finish, I should say. Ooh, actually that comes off the tip better than most of the crayons. All right, let me put it back on the palette over here. Even though I've already activated one, I want a fresh, because right there, I want it fresh. Because the other one's already watered down from before. Look at that. So it does come off the tip nicely. All right, now lifting wise, let me get my tissues ready. Now that spring is around and we all have allergies, probably not the only one suffering. Let's pick actually let's do a color that would typically be hard to lift anyway, but okay. And then reactivating. We're just filling this in. Let's go ahead and use the same one for transparency. Now, let's make a blend. I kind of want to do a purple into pink blend. So we're going to use the purple here. This purplish color here. And I'm not pushing hard. I'm not gonna lie though, they are a little awkward to hold at times. Gotta get used to that, but all right, so let's try. All right, so let's activate this one. Try to fill in our bubble. So you can see the lines are staying there with that one, but let's see now with the green, how well this one dissolves. Oops, my brush is dry, but it's still dissolving, so. Okay. Let's dissolve this one. And then we'll see how much we can lift up. Not much. Not much. Now, I'll be honest, I don't do a lot of lifting with my watercolor crayons or pencils, but like if you want to create like a little cloud effects in your watercolor books, it's definitely something you might want to try, right? Okay. Now this is a soft brush, which is why I actually prefer to dissolve a lot of these crayon type products with a water brush that has like the nylon bristles, because sometimes it just needs that harsher bristle to activate it, especially on like say an adult coloring page. That blend is hideous. But they blend, but the problem is the lines are just not making it as pretty. So let me dry this up real quick. Oops, and then I will be back. Okay, I'm back. And for funsies, yes, I just said funsies, I got one of my water brushes out because I just wanted to try something. Let's use that same red. I just wanted to see if the nylon bristles of this, I'm just using a Prima one, make it activate any better, or if it's about the same. Well, one, as you can see, compared to the watercolor brush, the color is actually brighter, and it did dissolve better, but let's see how many lines are still showing. Yep, see, just what I thought. Not as bad. So I had switched to the watercolor brush because I had a few commenters about the, and I should clarify, watercolor brush. I had comments when I was using these to activate that it wasn't as accurate. But from an adult coloring point, most adult colorists are going to use something like this, not something like this. Now this has a very soft, nice, beautiful, luscious bristles, but they're made for picking up off a palette. Now, as you can see, not only does the color of that same red look better here, it dissolved better. Yeah, there's still a few lines, but the rough nylon that's in here picks up that pigment a lot better and makes them look less crummy. So I may end up going back when I do the battle, redoing the sheets all with the water brush. Oh, that'll be so painful, but it is important because, yeah, kind of have to look at both sides, right? So overall though, I think these are actually really good crayons. Now let's try a pencil. I've got my chocolate here. This is dry. Goes on top just fine. Oops, that little center is wet. But yeah, I mean, this little part right here is still a little damp, and I could feel it the second my pencil hit the paper. But you can still pencil on top, and these actually have less of a chalky feel than other brands. They are very smooth. Incredibly smooth feeling. So I'm going to say dissolves well-ish. So we're going to say both. Because it's pretty vibrant down here, right? But not up there. It can be colored on. Dissolves well for both off the palette and the tip. So we're going to circle that one. And vibrant. I mean, look at that color. That's really pretty. Lifting doesn't lift. Reactivating. I'll use my water brush, but it does not reactivate at all. There's nothing coming out of that bad boy. Okay. Now, the ones on my palette would reactivate, I bet you. So I'll take my water brush just to keep it the same. But let's grab, these ones are dry, so I'm going to grab this red up here. See, it's reactivating. So it reactivates on the palette. It just doesn't reactivate on your paper, which is fine by me. Soak into that paper, because when I'm using it in an adult coloring book, it's a little different. All right, let's try some different papers real fast. Let's pull out my Etcher cold press. I really need to start like marking the pages I'm using for this. So we have our whole test sheet, all sorts of different things. I'm going to grab a little of this blue here. And then that red, because that one wasn't dissolving on the paper. Now I'm going to use my water brush, and just see. One, the blue looks so much better here than it did on the other paper, but that's because these nylon bristles are actually picking up the pigment and moving it around. See, lesson learned, just go with my gut. All right, same thing with this red. Look at that, it's dissolving just fine. Ooh. I do see some lines sticking around. Let's mix them together. This is how purple is made. Sort of. It's a really ugly purple because of the colors, but you get the gist. Now, let's let that dry for a sec. I'll grab my coloring book that just happens to be nearby. Move that out of the way. It says test your pens. I never even noticed that it said pens before. Interesting. So I'm going to, this is just a Maria Trollet book. Do those same colors. And I always press lightly because, you know, if you do too much pressure, then you're breaking down the tooth and making it stick to it. They dissolve nice there. As you can see though, that blue, once that line is done, it's done. It does not move. So definitely keep that in mind. If you're doing a background, because that blue did not start, like it didn't shift afterwards. So on this paper, they dissolved pretty well, but let's dry it up real quick. I love this dryer. You can just hold it like right on top of things. Obviously you want to keep an eye on it, but it's safer than an embossing tool. Okay, so as you can see, it's a lot less vibrant here on this coloring book page, which is interesting because those same two colors on the watercolor page are, holy cow, right? So they do dull out quite a bit on this paper. And then say we're comparing that same red, this is the one I activated with the water brush, still looks better here than it does here. And even that blue is actually a little prettier. Interesting. So that's at least the watercolor side, but we have tested them on those. Now, I'm going to do the prices per crayon in the battles because in case the prices change, but this set right here right now is like $36 and some change on Amazon. And then of course it comes with the sharpener and the brush and all that. But honestly, considering it came with the brush, the performance of using a brush, unless you're using the palette and tip, really aren't impressive. I would stick to a water brush if I were to use these to get the most out of them, because otherwise they kind of fall flat, don't they? But yeah, I mean, because look at how vibrant they are with the water brush. That's pretty. That's very pretty. Whereas, you know, using a regular watercolor brush wasn't dissolving some of these lines in here. And even if, let's see if we go back, it's probably too late. The time has passed. Yeah, it won't reactivate to pull anymore. I tried, but still, I actually like these crayons. Now, I know right now on this chart, they probably don't look as impressive, but if we're comparing them to some of the other brands I have tested, like say the Crayola Signature, the Crayola Signature were very vibrant, activated, and off the palette. I mean, look at those colors, holy cow. So these are a little bit more muted in that front, but these also have light fast testing. Crayola does not. These are open stock. Crayola is not. So there's some differences between those two for sure. But price-wise, the Crayola are definitely cheaper. And if you're using these in adult coloring books, well, light fast doesn't matter. Open stock may matter to you though, because what if you run out of this color? Do you want to have to buy the whole set? You know, no. Luckily, you can just go buy this open stock. So that is something to keep in mind if you're looking at from that point. And I wish these performed better on this paper, but like I said, it seems that they are being shorted by the brush a little bit. So I highly recommend using these with one of these rather than one of these. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I will be putting these all against one another and kind of ranking them and putting them in categories. And then at the end, kind of going off of what is my favorite as well. Like I'll throw in a category of like, hey, which one's my favorite? I mean, I've been sitting here playing with these things. But I also have categories like best budget, best for adult coloring and art, in case you're trying to buy a set that's multi-purpose, like because maybe you do adult coloring, but you also paint, or, you know, like stuff like that. So that's something we have to keep in mind. But then I'll also have ones that are just great for adult coloring books. And yeah, so I have a few categories that we'll do in the battle, but I have a feeling these are going to perform a lot better in the battle than they look right now. In fact, I'm going to grab the swatch chart. Nope, it's not up here. But these, I think, got short-sold because they are very pretty. So I think these are going to do much better in the battle. And I actually really like these. I think they're fun, they're quirky, they're unique. I know sometimes it looks like they're advertised for children. I'm going to try sharpening one too. Oh, look at that. It's actually a really good sharpener, y'all. Like, actually really good. Yes, I do know that you're supposed to turn the sharpener and not the product. I just can't. I've tried. I can't get it down, so I'm gonna break the rules. Looks like that's as sharp as the sharpener gets them. So the whole point is to just get away the wood so that you have more of this exposed, which actually isn't bad because I'm not losing a lot of product in there, if any. Check that out. And it curls. Nice, beautiful curls, so you know that bad boy's sharp. So actually a good sharpener, and you need it because there's no other way this is going to fit in anything. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, that's it for the Stabilo Woody. Like I said, I feel like they underperformed, or they're not showing off as much as they give, because I actually really like these ones. So we shall see how they do in the battle, but overall, I would definitely recommend these as a pencil. These were actually gifted to me, and no, I'm not saying I like them because they were gifted to me. You guys know I'm more honest than that. I actually do like these. I've used them before, and I feel like they're a great option, especially if you don't want to go, you know, down the crayon route and you want something more pencil-ish. That's what I would think of. But for now, I'll say goodbye, and until next time, take care.